Thanks for watching this pitch for CompanyCam's senior design project. First, before launching into the project, I'll describe briefly what CompanyCam is. So it's a cloud-based service that helps contractors document jobs as they're being worked on. Photos are taken at a work site. This would typically be, for example, a residential or commercial building. Photos are organized into projects. The projects typically correspond to a specific work site, and that'll have specific GPS coordinates associated to it. Those photos are then uploaded to the cloud, and then other users can view the data in the mobile app or in the web app. You can do a lot more. You can take videos, create reports, share galleries, and so on, but that's the service in a nutshell. And I'll show a little more of the app in detail later. So about us as the company, we were founded in 2015. Since then, we've gathered over 150 million photos and 7 million projects. You can see our little counter there. It shows the daily counts too. We're located in the Haymarket, pretty close to the campus. On the top floor of that building you see there, above Vincenzo's. You probably walked by it if you've ventured off campus into the Haymarket. I should mention, a couple years ago we sponsored another senior design project. If you're interested in that, you can check out the senior design archives and read about it there. I should say, concerning our location, most of us are working at home right now, but if the opportunity arises, hopefully, it should be easy to meet in person. So a few people you may get to know in the course of doing this project. Luke Hansen, that's our CEO and founder, the top middle there. Tiffany Albright, she's our product manager. She keeps track of what's getting done, when it's getting done, who's doing it, and so on. Kevin Scully, he's the head of engineering, so he's managing all the engineers. Chad Wilkins, our CTO. He works on back-end stuff, so he might be involved if we're doing anything in the cloud, like with AWS. Lastly, Thomas Mindshine, that's me. I'm in the bottom right. I'll be the one you interact with the most day-to-day or week-to-week, whichever. Alright, a final bit of introduction. I'll show you a little walkthrough of the app. That'll give you a little more context for the project itself. I mentioned projects. These are like corresponding to the work sites. This is how you would create a project in the app. You can pick a location on the map. You see the little pin there in the screenshot. Or you can type in an address. Regardless of how you do it, there will be some specific GPS coordinates attached. If you go into the project in the app, you'll see, well, here's a little sample. It just has 3 photos in it, but typically they'll have a lot more photos, maybe even hundreds of photos, possibly. You pull up a little menu to add photos. You can see the Take Photos Here button. You can also add external photos into the app. So these are like if you're a new customer and you have old photos you want to import, you can hit Add Media from Device there. If you want to do that, you do have to create the project manually first. Now, if you do have a lot of photos in the project, you might want to filter the list to make it easier to find what you want. One way of doing that is tags. You do have to manually create those tags and apply them to each photo. So there you can see in the screenshot a bunch of tags we've created, and we selected one of them to view. Okay, so that's a really brief walk through the app. Now, what can we improve from that? Can we remove some of those manual steps? That's the question. So as we saw, photos can be tagged manually. That takes a certain amount of effort and coordination. You have to make sure someone's going in and creating the tags and actually tagging the photos. It'd be nice if we could use image recognition to just do that automatically. So here's a picture. You've probably seen something like this before. Convolutional neural networks are really good at recognizing and labeling objects. So we should, in principle, be able to at least identify the content of the photos automatically. One nice thing is that could even allow searching by content, searching for a keyword or finding similar photos based on what's been labeled in other photos. So in practice, what would that look like? Well, we do have a lot of photos, but people don't always tag them in a consistent way. So it might be difficult to actually train using the data that we have in terms of tagging. But we can use pre-trained models that will identify labels like in the picture you saw previously. So the final result might look like an API endpoint. It would take maybe a photo URL, say stored in S3, and it would give you back the labels like we just saw. So another idea is automatically organizing photos. So we saw that projects are kind of the basic containers for the photos, including for external photos. But as we saw, if you're a new user, you want to import a bunch of existing photos, you'd have to go in and create a bunch of projects and then manually kind of sort the photos you want to import into each of those projects. So it'd be kind of a tedious manual process that's really kind of a barrier to entry for new customers. So instead of doing that, we could try to use a clustering algorithm that would allow us to maybe present a list of automatically created projects, each populated with the correct photos. We could do that using the GPS coordinates stored in the photos, like in the EXIF data, along with the timestamps. So specifically, what would that look like? I mean, here actually we do have a lot of data because we have a lot of projects and photos, and those do have GPS coordinates attached to them, so you could use that historical data. Another option would be just to maybe start with a really simple algorithm and kind of build out from there. In the end, maybe you'll have an API endpoint. You could supply it a collection of GPS coordinates and timestamps also, and get back that suggested partition into projects. This could also run on the device. It doesn't necessarily have to be an API endpoint. You can kind of explore different options there. So those are a few basic ideas. There's some other ideas, for example, like voice commands, which I don't have time to get into in this pitch, but certainly your ideas are welcome too. We're not necessarily dead set on those or specifically the only ideas we want to implement. Anyway, so what would make this project successful in the end? Well, completing some of the specific ideas we've outlined above. Again, we can adjust the scope depending on ideas that you have. But in addition to that, just as important would be practical concerns like, for example, what is the process that we come up with? What's the workflow? Can you collaborate? Is there version control? How do we organize the dependencies, the training data, the models, all of that? It should be easy to get new engineers working on it, for example. And we have to make sure it's cost effective. Kind of depends on what we're doing, what cloud services we use, how much computation is happening in the cloud, what data is being transferred, and so on. So we'll have to do some kind of cost analysis. And that's about it. I think this will be a pretty fun project. You'll have a lot of input. You'll have a lot of, we'll take your ideas and you'll really shape kind of the end result. So thanks for watching.